Picture this. You're walking through a city hidden deep, and I mean deep inside a tropical rainforest. Towering stone pyramids are literally piercing the canopy above you. There are these massive temples stretching toward the sky, and all around thousands of people are filling bustling marketplaces. You hear the sounds of trade, celebrations, everyday life. Priests are up high observing the heavens. Scribes are carving these beautifully complex symbols into stone, and kings are ruling over what is easily one of the most advanced civilizations the ancient world had ever seen. The air is thick. The energy is absolutely electric. This society isn't just surviving, it is thriving.
But now, fast forward just a few generations and imagine returning to that exact same spot. The noise is gone. The marketplaces are completely silent. Those massive temples, entirely empty. The grand royal palaces have been completely abandoned. Trees are aggressively tearing through the cracked stone walls. Thick vines are choking the towering pyramids, and this incredibly dense jungle is just slowly, relentlessly reclaiming every single thing humanity built here.
So you really have to ask yourself, what could possibly cause an entire, highly advanced civilization to just pack up and abandon its greatest cities? For centuries, explorers, historians, and archaeologists have obsessed over this question. Even today, the collapse of the Maya civilization remains one of history's most compelling mysteries. So, in this explainer, we're going to dig in and unpack exactly what happened to this legendary society.
Part 1. Masters of the Americas.
Okay, before we can even begin to comprehend their fall, we have to grasp the staggering scale of the Maya at their absolute peak. Unlike ancient Egypt or the Roman Empire, the Maya were actually never ruled by a single all-powerful emperor. Instead, think of it more like a giant puzzle of dozens of independent, sprawling city-states. You had these massive rival kingdoms, places like Tikal, Calakmul, and Copan. They were fiercely competitive centers of politics, science, and architecture, all wired together by these incredibly rich, bustling trade routes. They battled, they traded, and they constantly pushed each other to build bigger and think bolder.
And their intellectual dominance? Absolutely next level. Take the number 0, for instance. The Maya independently developed the concept of zero, which, if you know your math history, is one of the most profoundly important discoveries ever made. And they were using it long before the concept caught on across Europe. Their grip on mathematics was literally centuries ahead of much of the rest of the world.
And they channeled all that brainpower into some serious engineering and scientific marvels. We are talking about building enormous pyramids that weighed thousands of tons. And get this, they did it without iron tools, without beasts of burden, and without wheels. They also developed the America's only fully functional writing system to record their royal histories. And at night, their priests for mapping the stars, tracking the orbit of Venus with mind-blowing precision, and accurately predicting eclipses. To any outsider looking in, this civilization must have looked completely unstoppable.
Part 2. When the rains failed.
For centuries, it seemed like the good times would literally never end. But beneath the surface, hidden cracks were already starting to form. Actually, it was their very success that planted the seeds of their downfall. As their population exploded into the millions, they had to clear out more and more forests just to create farmland. But they also needed ridiculous amounts of wood to burn down into limestone plaster, which is what they used to coat all those grand temples. Year after year, they're burning vast stretches of forest. This massive deforestation inadvertently messed with their local ecosystem. It led to localized warming, which then triggered severe, prolonged droughts. So life probably looked totally normal on the surface, but nature was quietly, dangerously turning against them.
Here's the real kicker. Their Achilles heel was water. Think about the great civilizations of Egypt or Mesopotamia. They were supported year-round by these massive, totally reliable river systems, the Nile, the Tigris. The Maya? They didn't have that luxury. They relied almost entirely on seasonal rainfall, collecting water in these massive artificial reservoirs and managing every single drop. Without a great river to fall back on, a failure of the seasonal rains didn't just mean a tight year. It meant absolute, unmitigated catastrophe.
And we actually know exactly when that catastrophe hit. The way modern science figured this out is honestly fascinating. Researchers looked at chemical records hidden inside ancient cave formations, stalagmites. Layer by layer, these rocks basically acted like a hard drive, preserving a record of rainfall going back thousands of years. And what they reveal is chilling. Between the 8th and 9th centuries, the Maya world was slammed by the absolute worst droughts they had seen in nearly 2,000 years. The reservoirs simply dried up.
Part 3. The anatomy of collapse.
So, with the water gone and the crops failing, the pressure inside Maya society hit a breaking point. It was a brutal chain reaction. First, the prolonged drought shrinks the harvests. Suddenly, food is scarce. As hunger spreads, fear grips the ordinary people. Now remember, the Maya firmly believed their kings had a sacred, divine duty to bring the rains and keep the gods happy. So when years go by without a drop of rain, the citizens start asking some very dangerous questions. They completely lose faith in these divine rulers. The political balance shatters, and these desperate kings stop fighting for prestige and start launching incredibly destructive, bloody wars just for pure survival.
When you look at the archaeological evidence of a civilization tearing itself apart from the inside, it is incredibly grim. We find burned palaces and intentionally shattered monuments. We see defensive walls suddenly thrown up in cities that had literally never needed them before. Those rich, long-distance trade routes we talked about, they completely collapsed, isolating communities that used to thrive together. And then there's just an abrupt, eerie halt to all monumental construction. One by one, the cities just stopped carving new stones. The whole system was fracturing.
Part 4. The Truth Revealed. All right, here's where we need to address the elephant in the room. This story you've probably heard about what happened next, it's actually wrong. It's time to shatter the biggest myth out there about the Maya. The Maya never disappeared. Let that sink in for a second. There was no single catastrophic event, no sudden apocalyptic Tuesday that wiped them from the face of the earth.
What actually happened was a massive, strategic, multi-generational migration to survive. Millions of people gradually made the unbelievably tough choice to just walk away from their failing cities. They migrated north, up into the Yucatan Peninsula, where they actually went on to build spectacular new urban centers, places you might have heard of, like Chichen Itza. Others spread out and settled in much smaller, flexible farming villages that were way better suited to surviving the harsh new climate. The magnificent ancient cities fell silent, for sure, but the people, life continued.
And that leads us to a pretty profound historical irony. When Spanish explorers finally arrived in the 16th century, they were completely blown away by these enormous, empty stone cities hiding in the jungle. They were scratching their heads, wondering who on earth could have built such extraordinary things. The irony? Millions of Maya descendants were still thriving right there in the region. The great-great-grandchildren of the original builders were literally standing right in front of them.
Fast forward to today, and this mystery is still unfolding, all thanks to an absolute game-changer in technology called LiDAR. It's an advanced laser mapping system strapped to an aircraft that flies over the rainforest. It shoots lasers down and basically strips away the dense jungle canopy on a computer screen, letting us see exactly what's on the forest floor. It's cutting-edge science, and it has completely shocked the archaeological world. LiDAR has unveiled a jungle that is completely packed with secrets. I mean, it forced us to entirely rewrite the scale of the Maya world. We're talking thousands of structures nobody even knew existed. Massive agricultural terraces, giant defensive fortifications, miles and miles of elevated roads and complex canals. What experts used to think were isolated little settlements are now clearly understood to be one enormous, highly interconnected civilization that supported many millions more people than we ever guessed. So, when we put all the pieces together, what's the modern consensus on the collapse? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was a highly complex, slow-moving tragedy. It started with severe environmental stress, which triggered deep political instability, which then spiraled into massive economic decline, and ultimately resulted in the gradual abandonment of some of the greatest cities ever built in the Americas. It was a deadly domino effect where every single crisis just made the next one worse.
The fall of the Maya didn't happen in a day. It unfolded over decades. One failed harvest, one unusually dry season, one political conflict, one abandoned city at a time. And honestly, perhaps that's the most crucial lesson history is trying to teach us right now. Civilizations rarely just vanish overnight. They fade. They fade gradually as the challenges they face start to accumulate faster than the solutions they can invent. Even the most incredibly advanced, brilliant societies remain deeply vulnerable when environmental change, political division, and resource scarcity violently collide.
The jungle might have reclaimed the cities, and time may have erased the empires, but the story of the Maya endures, not as a spooky tale of a vanishing people, but as a powerful, flashing warning light. Every civilization, no matter how brilliant, must learn to adapt or risk becoming history itself. So as we look around at our own rapidly changing world today, with our own shifting climates and deep political divides, we really have to ask ourselves, are we paying enough attention to the cracks forming beneath our own surface? Thanks for joining us for this explainer. Until next time, keep looking to the past, because it just might hold the key to our future.